Hello, everyone, and welcome to this session on KNIME series by Intellipaat. Developing machine learning model is always considered very challenging due to its cryptic nature. The introduction of KNIME has brought the development of machine learning models in the purview of a common man. KNIME provides a graphical interface for the entire development. In KNIME, you simply have to define the workflow between the various predefined nodes provided in its repository. So let's check the agenda for the session. First, we'll be talking about installation of KNIME. Then we'll be doing a small discussion about KNIME. After that, we'll be talking about machine learning concept around KNIME. And then we'll be doing web scraping with KNIME. And at last, we'll be doing a hands-on importing dataset and applying data pre-processing. But before we begin the session, make sure to subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon so that you'll never miss any update from us.
First of all, let's go ahead with the installation of this particular platform. Fine. Now guys, there is a thing that is asking for some of the personal detail. It's totally up to you. Fine. If you don't want to provide any of your personal detail, that's all right. What you'll do, just come down, scroll down, and on to the particular right hand side, you will be having the download button. Fine. Just click on it. The moment you click on it, guys, you will be having different sort of installers available for different system specifications, right? So here you will be having the particular installers for Windows, right? For now, we will be simply going ahead with the first installer, that is KNIME Analytics platform for Windows, right? The people who are using Windows, fine. And let's say the people who are working with Linux or Mac OS, so they can simply go on to the respective sort of installer, fine. So don't worry about it, guys. The installation part for these two specifications are essentially the same as we're doing with Windows, fine. So just go ahead and extract out the installer file. It's a very simple click next process. Okay. The moment you click on the particular thing, so you will be simply going ahead, accept the policy and click on download. The moment you click on download, you will be having the installer for your respective operating systems. Okay. So like this onto a particular system, you will be having the installers to be available. Okay. So guys, just extract out the installers. Fine. So let's say the people who are window user, they can go on to the search box, just look for KNIME Analytics platform and click on open, right? So this is the workspace directory that will be created. So it's up to you guys. You can simply change this workspace directory as well at the time of installation or at the time of launching KNIME Analytics platform, right? It's totally up to you. You can simply go ahead, right? So the moment I click on launch, yeah. So guys, on your screen, you will be having the glance of the particular interface of KNIME right now. Now guys, let's come on to the introduction of KNIME, how it is different from other sort of programming language, what its use, how you can easily able to use this particular tool on your particular processes, fine, or in the field of data science. Okay. Now, if I talk about KNIME, guys, so it is totally different from any of the particular programming language. Okay. So if I simply go ahead and talk about KNIME, right? So KNIME is a platform, not a programming language. Fine. The second thing is that all the computations that you will be dealing and you will be doing using different sort of programming language and platforms, right? Let's say if you are using, or if you are going with the data cleansing process, data pre-processing process, right? Or if you are doing data visualization. So on to that particular part, guys, either you will be going ahead with Python, either you are going ahead with R for now, right? And onto these programming language, you are using different sort of packages and the syntax, fine. Now the moment I talk about KNIME, so KNIME will simply provide you the code free environment. Already you will be having different sort of components which will help you to achieve and accomplish the same task that you are going ahead and doing with Python or R, right? Or any sort of other programming languages. Okay. So if I talk about machine learning, right, model building, okay, these are the advanced concepts. Fine. Let me start with very basic. Okay. Let's say importing and pre-processing the data. This is the very basic step in the field of data science or data analytics. Fine. Where you will be importing the data set, and after that you will be simply applying certain of data pre-processing operations, data cleansing operations, fine, and data mining operations. Okay. So now let's say if I want to simply go ahead and remove a particular column from the data set. Okay. So how much line of code do I need? Let's say you can consider any of the language. Fine. If you are talking about Python, so maybe there will be less number of lines as compared to R, right? But at least you should simply go ahead with the code of around, starting from loading of data set, fine, viewing it, inspecting it, after that removing the column, and again you are inspecting it. So let's say around 10 to 12 lines of code will be there. Okay. Now if I simply go ahead and also add some points in the problem statement that you should also present or visualize your data, right? So again your code will be increased by 10 to 15 lines, right? Now after that I will be also adding some of more points in the problem statement that according to a particular group, according to a particular let's say fields, I want to segregate my data. Fine. So now again 10 to 15 lines will be added onto a particular code and the complexity will be increased. Okay. Now if I simply wants to attempt and accomplish the same task onto KNIME, guys, so within a few lines, or let's say few steps of drag and drop, fine, already I will be having certain sort of filters, certain sort of nodes that will be available onto KNIME. What I have to do, I have to simply pick them up, drop them up, and make a form of process, right? So that I can have the functionality out of it. Okay. So for now, you can simply say that if I talk about KNIME, so there you don't needs to know about coding. There is no worries whether you are proficient in any of the programming language or not. What you will do, so it is simply termed as code free analytics computation, right? Where everything has been predefined, right? And as a particular platform, you only have to pick up the automated, or let's say already defined functionality. You have to pick up, you have to connect the component, and at the end you will be having your required or needed result, right? Okay. So guys, let's say whenever you want to simply go ahead with different sort of computations, complex computations, you can simply go ahead and use the KNIME. Fine. So now let's understand the basic component that is available onto KNIME. So if I simply go ahead and talk about KNIME, so guys, as you know that this has been developed by a particular organization, and based upon the name of the organization, you will be having this acronym for the same, right? Okay. So if I specifically talk about, so you can simply go ahead and constants information minor, right? So this is the particular thing, or let's say the full form of KNIME, right? So KNIME, K will be simply silent for it, right? As you can simply compare it for knife, right? So the same thing of let's say spelling it will be done by this particular let's say the name. Fine. So KNIME, you can simply compare it with knife, right? That's why the same sort of pronunciation will be done by the company. Okay. Now guys, let's come back on to the particular introduction of KNIME. So there will be these different concept of nodes and workflows, right? So as it has mentioned that guys, it's a simple open source data analytics platform, right? Which will be giving you drag and drop feature. Okay. So everything has been already configured. What you have to do, you have to simply choose up the components, fine, have them to be aligned in a specific patterns or according to the requirements, fine, onto the problem statement, and have your desired output. Fine. That is the basic let's say structure that will be followed in KNIME. Okay. So you can simply say that it's a GUI driven data management application. Fine. So here we will be simply using the interfaces, right? So that is the KNIME. Fine. You can simply say that GUI driven data management application for sure. Okay. Now guys, there will be certain things that will be used in KNIME to compute or to have any of the concepts to be implemented. Fine. So the first and the foremost thing will be the workflow. Okay. So here the workflow will be the core unit of KNIME. atmosphere, right? Okay. So what is workflow? What you will be doing, you will be simply aligning the components and forming a pipeline sort of structures, right? So we will see that how we can do the same. Fine. So guys, workflow will be there, right? And you will be building up the workflows. Okay. And by building the workflows, you will be having the particular functionalities to be achieved. Okay. Now, as I've already told you, whether it will be any of the normal computations of data loading, reading the data from any of the files, fine, reading the structured and unstructured data, or let's say performing any of the data cleansing, processing, pre-processing operations, filtering process, combining process, joining process, group by process, everything you will be having certain sort of nodes to be available in node repository. Okay. So guys, if I talk about the basic concept, you can simply go ahead, right? As all the data operations I have covered for now, right? Now on to the additional part. If I talk about machine learning, deep learning, right? NLP operations, right? Any sort of this ETL, that is extract, transfer and loading process, right? Extracting the data from different web sources, different databases, fine. Whether it will be hosted in a cloud-based environment, right? Whether you will be having any of the database, you can directly go ahead and connect and integrate the KNIME. Fine. You can load the data from that particular databases using database readers, right? So for n sort of operations, you will be having all the nodes that has been assigned with predefined task in node repository. Okay. Now guys, if I come down, so these are the features what I was talking about, that you can blend data from any sort of source. Okay, fine. So whether it will be comma separated file, PDF, itself, JSON, XML, fine. So these are the structured sort of data, fine. Or let's say if you are dealing with unstructured sort of data types, images, fine, all sort of networks, anything, or let's say real sort of time series data. Okay. So you can easily able to go ahead and have the data from any of the particular data source. So for that particular purpose, let's say if you're going with SQLite, so you will be having a connector available as the node, right? This is the node, fine. You will be having a database reader that will be reading the particular data from the data, let's say base you are connected with. Okay. So there will be n number of nodes, guys, and these sort of structure will be known as workflow, where each and every node will be working its own sort of let's say functionality. Fine. So I will be showing a small demonstrations of loading the data, right? So we will be trying to load some of the data, and I will be making you the let's say some of the concepts that needs to be taken care, right, of the node. What is node? We will be seeing by implementing it what are the different sort of things, right? That green will be a light that is available, right? How you will be loading up a particular node, how you will be labeling it up, fine. So everything we will be starting from scratch, and we will be seeing how you can build up your own sort of workflow. Okay. Now for in terms of databases, guys, you can simply have the glance onto the databases and data warehouse that you can easily able to integrate with KNIME. Either it will be Oracle, SQL, Apache Hive, Snowflake, right? Or some of the particular cloud-based databases, S3, Azure, right? ORC files. So these are the applications that can be easily able to integrate with your KNIME platform. Fine. Now, if I talk about certain of the CRMs tools, so you can have your Salesforce, SharePoint, right? SAP, AWS, S3, Twitter, Google Sheet, Azure. Anything can be connected, right? So if I come down, guys, now you will be having the operation that I was talking about, right? If you simply go ahead and have the particular glance over this slide, right? So all the things that I was talking about, fine. Shape of your data means all the operations that you can simply go ahead and perform onto the data to get the understanding out of it. Okay. So whether you will be simply going ahead providing certain sort of tests onto the particular data, right? Hypothesis test, fine. You will be performing different sort of statistical operations, you can, fine. Otherwise, these are the summarization operations, find, sort, filter, join data, anything, cleaning process, extracting or future selections, fine. Everything will be there, what you can perform in KNIME, right? with a less sort of or let's say if you are not able to have any of the knowledge of programming language, that is also fine with KNIME. No issues. You just needs to know the concept, how the thing will work, right? How you can build up the workflow, what sort of process or these steps will be come first in the procedure, what is the correct pattern, and how you will be able to have the required result out of it, right? Now guys, the next feature, if I talk about KNIME, will be the machine learning part, right? So see, if you go ahead and if I talk about implementation of a decision tree classifier, right, in R. Now guys, if you talk about the, let's say, building of the models, training them, optimizing them, let's say evaluating or validating the models, fine, testing the models, and let's say we have to again go ahead work on it, or let's say to be scaling up the model, scaling down the model, fine. So on to that particular part, for each and everything you will be having a specified node, right? What do I mean from node? If I open my KNIME platform, right, I'll just give you a small sort of walkthrough around KNIME platform, right? So on to the node repository, guys, that you will be seeing on to the bottom left, right, where my cursor is currently pointing. So for each and everything, you will be having a different sort of node to be available, right? So if I go on to the column part, I will be having different sort of nodes available. If I go on to the analytic part, I am having the statistic nodes to be there, right? If I go with the DB part, so all the, let's say, if I want to make the connections to databases, fine, for that I will be having all the connectors to be available with me. Oracle connector, MySQL, right? Microsoft Access connector, H2 connector, DB connector, fine. SQLite connector, Vertica connector. For each and everything, I will be having different sort of connector to be available. Same with the machine learning part, guys. You will be having n number of let's say, if I talk about linear regression, fine. So for that, you will be having a particular node that will be labeled as linear regression learner, right? Linear regression learner, which will be helping the model to learn the relationship. After that, I am having a polynomial regression learner, fine. If I have more than two sort of variable available, let's say multiple linear regression, right? And after that, I am having the third node, which is regression predictor. Once my model will be learned, so I can easily able to predict. So for that, I will be having different nodes. So same thing has been conveyed over here. Whenever you are dealing with model buildings, fine, wherever you are simply going ahead and evaluating, validating your model, how well your model is predicting, how efficient your model is there, right? And what are the things that you needs to do for optimizing model performance, everything will be done by the particular drag and drop procedure. No need of coding, nothing, no need to implement algorithms, no need to configure parameters, no need to execute the multiple sort of segments, right? What you'll do, have a node, connect it, made a workflow, and then you can have an your particular output to be available. Okay, so we will be seeing that how within a 3 or 4 or let's say 6 7 nodes, a small sort of nodes, find this particular square bracket is known as node. So this particular concept of machine learning and AI is quite booming in current market scenarios, right? And if any of the tool is simply capturing this particular market or the technology, so for sure the popularity has been gained, right? And that is one of the major reason that why KNIME is preferring, or why KNIME will be adopting by different sort of organizations, right? The sector that I have provided you for now. Now if you come down and if you see, so again see onto this particular data visualization part, the KNIME has certain sort of, again the nodes will be there within which you can easily able to provide the insights, visualize your data, represent the information, right? Either if it will be given by a particular let's say model, if you have to represent the data, you can simply go ahead and plot any of the particular plots, fine. So if you go on to the KNIME, and let's say, let me come on to the plot sections, right? So it is on to the view part. Under view part, go with Java script, and yeah, under that you will be having.
If you want to make a career in data science, then Intellipaat has IIT Madras Advanced Data Science and AI Certification Program. This course is of very high quality and cost effective as it is taught by IIT professors and industry experts.
All the plots that can be easily be plotted with a single click or with a single drop down option, right? You will be having bar, box plot, conditional box plot, decision tree view, heat map, histogram, lift chart, right? All sort of particular visualizations has been done, as well as guys, what you can do if you require any of the additional component, so you can find n number of extensions and you can integrate with the node repository. That is also possible, right? So you can simply go ahead and have different sort of plots to be built out or around the KNIME. Fine. Yeah. So guys, the next feature is scale execution with the demands, right? What does it means? Fine. So let's say if you want to have different sort of workflows, fine. Let's say you will be integrating different sort of workflows. Okay. So one workflow I have made of linear regression. Now I can provide any of the data and all the workflows will work similarly. Okay. Now if you will be having a such sort of type of a workflow, right? And if you want to simply optimize it, so you can give it a try, fine, and have n number of particular ways to optimize the same. Okay. So for that particular part, you can simply scale up, scale down your particular sort of workflows performance. Okay. So these are some of the features that needs to be taken care whenever you are considering KNIME and whenever you are comparing with other sort of data analytics tools that are available. Okay. Yeah. So this is the thing, guys, that we'll be looking for. Okay. So here you will be having these sort of things. If I talk about KNIME, so the first thing will be your workflow managing area. On to the top left of your screen where my cursor is, guys, it is your workflow managing or management area where all the workflows will be managed, right? After that, if I talk about the particular top right, fine, this one. So this is an area which will simply help me to provide the documentation part for each and every node. If I select box plot, right, if I go on to the description part, so I will be having a full-fledged description about the box plot, right? So what is box plot, how it will work, what are the different categories, options, or the features available for it, right? How you can easily able to apply colors to the category, how you can simply make it efficient and optimize for any of the process. So everything will be coming onto the description part. Fine. So here you can find the particular documentation for it. If I select any of the node, so the proper description will be present onto the top right of the screen. Fine. Now, if I talk about the middle part, guys, it is known as active workflow, and each and everything will be constructed over here only. Fine. If you want to build up any of the workflow, if you want to build up any of the particular pipeline for the problem statement, so you can go ahead and everything will be done over here, right? Now let me show you one thing, guys, how to create a workflow. Now the first time I have opened my KNIME platform, so I will be having a welcome mail, or let's say a welcome sort of window to be available over here, right? So I'll simply go ahead, fine, and I have simply closed it. Now it's a clean and a blank sort of space available in front of me. It is known as your active workflow area. Okay. So what I'll do, guys, I'll go ahead, either I'll click on file, click on new. The moment I click on new, guys, it will simply help me to create a new sort of wizard or a new sort of workflow, right? Or what I'll do, how I can create it. Let's say if I want to create any of the specifically workspace, so onto the workspace management area, I can select my local workspace, give a right click, fine, and simply click on new KNIME workflow. Fine. The moment I click on new K, or let's say new KNIME workflow, I will be having this particular window. Either I can have a new KNIME workflow from this file, or I can go ahead and have the specified workflow on any of the directory. After that, I will simply click on finish. Okay, fine. Now, guys, the moment I have clicked on finish, so the workflow has been created and I am having this particular space. Fine. So it's up to me. Now I can have any of the nodes to be available here. And for the computation part, I can easily go ahead, right? And I can make any of the workflow for my problem statement. Okay. So for now, guys, let's do one thing. Let's go ahead and import the data. Fine. Okay. So for that particular part, what I'll do, guys, I will be going ahead onto my node repository. Fine. As you know that I don't require any of the code. I don't require any of the particular package for now. I just need to pick up the correct node. Fine. Okay. So basically your data is processed by the node. Fine. So what node I will find, guys? Let's say whenever you are not sure about the particular file, what you will do, you will go ahead, go on to the search box and search for file reader, right? So I will be starting from a CSV file. Okay. So let me give you a glance of the file. So guys, let's say this is the data known as VG sales. It's a comma separated file. And what it is having, it is having the rank of the particular, it's VG means it's video game data. Fine. So you will be having the rank of the games, name of the games, platform, the years in which the game has been released. Fine. And this is a genre that is the categories. Fine. So all the games has been different sort of categories. Fine. Sports, platform, racing, sports, right? Puzzle. So these are the different categories for the games. These are the publisher companies who have published the games. Fine. So these are the different region sales. Fine. It's North America. It's let's say you will be having some sort of Europe sales, Japan sales, other sales, and this is the global sales worldwide. So you will be having the video game sales data, right? Now what I have to do, I have to read this particular data. So now guys, let's say this is the file that I needs to be imported onto my KNIME, right? For computation. Okay. So what I'll do, guys, for now, let's say I don't want that. Okay, whatever will be the file, I am going with a generic sort of reader, file reader. Fine. So I will simply search in my node repository about file reader. I want everyone to follow each and every step, guys. Fine. Simply pick up, drag and drop it onto your workflow. Fine. So this is my node one, that is file reader. What I have simply pick up, dragged and drop over to my particular workflow, right? That is file reader, this one, guys. Okay. This is how a node should look like. Fine. So now there will be three sort of dots to be available. Now the dot is red, which means that the node is not configured and is inactive for now, right? Node is not active and not configured for now. This is known as transparent processing status. Okay. So for now, your node transparent processing status is red, which means it is inactive and not configured. Nothing will be there, right? What I will do now, guys, I will simply give a particular labeling to my node, right? So it's up to you. Basically, it is always recommended to label your node. Why? Because now, guys, it's a basic sort of workflow that we are doing for now, right? But in real life scenarios, whenever you will be having n number of nodes and let's say complex sort of workflow, so it is very hard for everyone to remember that, okay, what node one is doing. So what I'll do, I can simply click on the particular node number and I can simply label it. So I can write, okay, importing the data set, or I can simply give an let's say VG data set. It's up to you. It's just a labeling part. Now instead of node one, I am getting that, okay, this is my node labeling. So in future, whenever I go just simply going ahead with debugging or let's say optimization sort of thing, so I should know, right, that what this particular node is doing, instead of having node 1, node 2, node 3, node 4, node 5, right? It's up to you. Fine. I have labeled the node. This is my file reader node. What I'll do, guys, I will select it, and the moment I select it, you can have a description, right? Now, guys, how to configure it? Okay. So now the color of the dot, you can see that you will be having a delta symbol, which is for that the node is inactive, right? What you will do, select the node, have a right click, and now simply click on configure. Fine. This is the important step. The moment you click configure, guys, now you have to provide the path of the file and different sort of, let's say, particular attributes of the file, right? Now how I have done it, simply click on node, click on configure, right? Now here there will be n number of options. So let's say if you want to go ahead, read the file from different sort of thing, right? Now I have to read the file from my local system, so I'll simply have my local system. Now for the particular file, what I have to do, I have to click on browse. The moment I click on browse, guys, I will simply give the path of my file. So my path file is in, or let's say, yeah, the file will be in KNIME compute folder, and this is my file, that is VG sales. I select the file from my local system and I simply click on open. So guys, the moment I click on open, I will be having the preview to be available. Okay. So if I go ahead and onto my particular folder, fine. Let's say if I want to have my air passenger for now, customer underscore churn, right? It is onto my desktop. So it has giving me the clear sort of response, right? Okay. So you can have a file reader or CSV reader. So the file will be supported. So I'll just select the file from my local system. So now guys, here it's up to you. Fine, row ID and rank is one, right? So I want that. Okay, if I want to go ahead and has a row ID, right? So row ID is one, fine. I don't want row ID. I want to have this particular column as well, right? So what it will do, it will take the first column of your data, right? So your data will be this one, right? So rank is having 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So if you go ahead and simply click on has a row ID. So what it will do, it will take the first column as your row ID. Fine. Row ID means for referencing. Okay. But I want to retain the same sort of features, that is, or let's say the column name in my data. So I will just be unchecking it, right? So I am having all my data in preview. If I see, so if you check your data, you will be having a rank column, name, platform, year, general, publisher, North American sales, European sales, Japanese and other sales. Fine, everything will be there. Let me have and check of the columns. Fine. So guys, here the rank will be there, and onto the same part you will be having a small sort of box. So it will be showing the data type of your particular column. So range is my in integer, name is also there, it is in string, platform is in string, year is in string, genre is string, publisher is string, sales data is in decimal type, Europe sales data is also in decimal type, Japanese sales data is also in decimal type. Fine, because these their other sales data is also in Japanese, let's say in decimal type, and your particular global sales is also in decimal type, right? So Surya, see, it's by default sort of data that will be onto your particular data set, right? So we'll do and we will convert it in, let's say, number, right? Don't worry about it. So guys, now we are onto the data. Okay, so these are by default thing that has been automatically detected. Fine, that the file is column delimiter is comma, right? Comma separated file. Okay, so I have checked that. Okay, these are the particular data types of my columns. Fine, and these are my columns. After that, click on apply and click on OK. Fine. The moment you click on OK, guys, the particular dot has been turned as yellow, which means that you have configured your particular node, but the node is not in execution phase. Fine. Now it needs to be executed for all the operations to be simply implemented. Fine. Now right click and simply go ahead with execute. Fine. So guys, it's your choice. If you want, you can go ahead, click, simply give a right click and click on these particular options available in your particular box, right? Or you can go ahead with these shortcut keys. Fine. So for configuring of the node, the shortcut key is F6. For execution of a particular node, your shortcut key is F7. Fine. So it's up to you. Whatever the way prefers you the best, you can simply go ahead with it. Okay. Now what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead and click on execute. Fine. So guys, the moment I execute it, the TPS status has been changed to green, which means that the particular node has been successfully executed. Right now, just simply right click on it, and after that you have a particular option that is file table. So the moment you click on it, guys, you will be having your particular data files that is available, right? You will be having 11 columns and around 16,598 records or rows. Okay, so your first column is rank, second column is name, third platform. Everything has been successfully loaded, right? So guys, this is how you can simply go ahead and have your particular data to be loaded onto the KNIME. Fine. So now let's say we will be performing a particular task. So the first step is to just read the data. Fine. After that, we will be simply going ahead and we will be removing some of the columns, right? Columns means, let's say I will be removing all the sales column except the global one. Fine. Okay. After that, what we'll doing, we will be simply limiting the data that I only want to analyze the data of from year 2015 or let's say 2012, right? Okay. After that, guys, we will be going ahead with some of the grouping functionalities, right? How you will be simply going ahead and performing group by functions. So what we'll do, we will be simply grouping the data by the categories, that is genre. Fine. So it is basically categories of the video games. Fine. After that, we will be finding the counts in specific category, right? So the question is framed that what is the count of games in specific category. Fine. This is my first one. And the next one is, what is the average sales for different categories of video games. Fine. If I'm giving the category over here, so this is the category for games. Okay. And after that, we will be simply going ahead with certain plots, right? How you will be going to have different sort of plots is up to you, right? So this is the task, and where we will be going ahead with our first workflow. Okay. So guys, here we have accomplished the first step where we have successfully read the data from our CSV file, right? So let me add one more problem statement. So after computations, we are also writing the data, right? Whatever the data that has been come onto the count or average, we will be writing the respective data in a CSV or Excel file. Both the files will just show the demonstration how you can write the data in CSV or Excel file, right? The computed one. Okay. So let me open the particular platform for now. Okay. So here, guys, let's say I have to remove the column. Fine. So what is my data for now? If I simply have a glance over it, so I'm having rank, name, platform, genre, publisher, right? The sales, these are the sales. Fine. So according to the problem statement, I have to remove all the columns except the global one. Fine. For sales. So onto my particular data, if you have a glance, so I have North America sales, all the different sort of continentals, or let's say the states or nation sales, right? I want to remove each and every column. Fine. I only want to include global sales. Okay. So what I'll do, guys, now I'll just open my workspace. Fine. Onto my workspace, I will be going and searching for a, so you can simply go ahead and say that it's column filter, right? So this is my particular node. What I'll do, I will go ahead and I will drop it over here, right? Now what I will do, whatever the data that has been processed by my file reader node, I'll simply go ahead and connect with my column filter, right? Okay. So the moment I have simply given it the input data, fine. So the node transparent processing status has been turned to yellow, right? So what I'll do, I'll go ahead, configure it. Okay. So guys, I want to remove the columns, or let's say the sales column, except the global one. Now what you have to do, you have to simply include the global sales. Fine. And whatever will be the sales column, you have to exclude it. So this is the exclusion column highlighted by the red color, and this is the inclusion column highlighted by green color. Fine. Now after that, what I'll do, let's say I don't want NA sales. I select it and this is the arrow. So my NA sale has been removed from the data. I select EU sales, that is European sales. Simply, I have included it onto the exclusion column. I have to exclude these columns from my data. I also don't want JP sales, so I have given it to over here, right? I also don't want other sales. So these are the columns which I don't need to be included onto my particular data. I only want these sort of columns. Fine. Now guys, everything has been done. You don't want these columns, so you have simply added it onto the exclude part, and the green part will be included onto your data, right? Now what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead and click OK, right? Now I have configured the file. What I have to do, I have to click on execute. Fine. So my TPS, these status has been changed to green. Fine. Which means my node has been successfully executed, right? So now guys, this is my workspace. Let me shift it. Fine. Now guys, again, let me have a glance onto my computed or processed data. So again, the step is same. Give a right click and go to filter table. See, now onto your particular data set. Earlier you will be having 11 columns. Now these are 7 columns. Fine. So only you will be having global sales to be included. Fine. So you have successfully filtered out your data. Okay. And filtered out the columns. All the columns has been removed that you don't want to be included onto your particular data. Okay. So if you just go ahead and have, see what it will do, it will be simply going ahead. Let's say once you have built up the workflow, right? Now any of the certain recommendations, automated recommendation you want, so the workflow will guide you onto that particular way, right? Workflow coach is that. Okay. So let's say you want any of the recommendation for any of the particular task. So this will simply help you for the same way. Okay. So now guys, you have simply seen your data, that is filter table, which is only including global sales. Now let's move ahead on to our next task. Fine. So we have to limit the data, or we have to only consider the data from 2012. Fine. So if I see my data set, so I am having the data for 1985, 2006. Fine. I don't want these things to be there. I only want the games which will be published in 2012, right? So for that guys, what I need to do over here, it's row filter. Fine. So now what I'll do, I will search for row filter. Okay. And I'll simply go ahead, extract it out and put over here. Fine. So now this is your row filter. What I'll do, I will simply pick it up over here and I will connect to row filter. So whatever the data that will be formed up and processed by my node 2, fine, this one. Now this data will be provided as input to my row filter. This is how step by step you will be building the workflow, guys. Okay. Now let's go ahead. So now guys, let me configure it. Fine. So I want to go ahead and check years. Fine. That what will be the years to be available over here. Fine. After that, I don't want any of the pattern matching. I am defining the range. Fine. So range is 2012 to 2012, right? After that, I simply go ahead and click on apply and okay. Fine. Directly click on okay because I don't want to experiment anything. I know what I have to do. Fine. After that, I'll execute it. Now guys, one thing more. Let's say I want to convert the year, right? Year is in string. Fine. I want to convert the year in your particular number, or let's say numeric type integer. So what I will do, I will go ahead and I will find string to number. Fine. So this is the particular thing for column that is available. What I will do, I will select between the nodes. Okay. See. So earlier, as you all know that my year is in string. Fine. Now what I'll do guys, I'll configure it. And now I will be changing only year. So year will be inclusive. Fine. Let me send all the column here and year should be included. Fine. So I am changing only year out of, let's say originally it is in string. Now I am changing it to integer. Fine. This is how you can change the type. Okay. Any of the type to this particular column. So the column that you want to include or you want to change will be here. If you want to change multiple columns type, you have to include it onto the green one, right? Here I want to use only year and I want to change it from string to integer. So I will be clicking integer over here, click on OK. If I execute it, so there is a transformed input and the year has been automatically changed onto integer. Now you can see that, guys. Are you able to see? The thing has been turned to I, right? So this is how you can change the data type of any of the column. Okay. Now if you go ahead over here, right? If you configure the data, now if you go ahead, click on apply, if you execute it, and if you have a glance, guys, now you can check that you will be having around 675 games that will be launched in year 2012. Fine. So this is how you can simply go ahead and do the manual selections. Fine. Okay, so for sure, all the data will be onto your include by default, right? So what you will do, you will use these arrow to transfer the columns from exclude to include or include to exclude. Fine. So first of all, give all the data that is on to include to exclude, and after that select year and simply have the year over here, right? Okay. Now guys, after that come on to the row filter part, where what you are doing, whatever the data you are getting after removing of the columns, right? This is your data. So it is having around 16,598 records. All the years will be there. Now what is my main task? I only want to do the computation for year 2012. So why to waste the resources? Fine. So now I want all the records which is launch, or all the games which are launched in year 2012. So what I will do, I will go on to my row filter. I will configure. Fine. First of all, I have to check the column. So I want to filter the rows according to my year column, right? Now how I want to, let's say, yeah, simple filter them using pattern or using any of the other sort of matrix. Fine. So what I'll do, I will be using the range checking, and let's say whatever the data that is lying between the upper bound and lower bound. Fine. So I want to only specify about 2012. So both the values, right? So whatever the data which is having 2012 onto it, that will be included. Fine. So upper bound is 2012, lower bound is 2012. Now, if the problem statement is saying that, guys, you have to limit the data and you have to check what are the games launched in 2012 and 2015 till 2015. So now let's say if I check the data, pattern matching is just simply matching the string. Fine. So now I have considered the name function, and I will be filtering out the records which are starting from this super, right? So what I'll do, I will just give super over here. Now let's say I only want case sensitive match. So by default, all the cases are, all the matches are not case sensitive. If I want to have case sensitive, I can click it down. It's up to you, right? I simply go ahead. It will reset my node. I will execute it. Let me have a view. So I think there is nothing as such. Fine. So what I'll do, I will again configure case sensitive match. Let me execute it. Let me have a glance. Okay, so again it is not coming over here. So let me have a glance onto my data, that what is my data. Okay, I want to give the entire name for it, right? Okay, fine. Now if I execute it, see guys, fine. Now let me have a glance onto the filter data. So there will be two records that will be simply filtered out by row filter, which is having Super Mario Bros. Fine. So this is how string matching will be done onto this particular thing. Okay. So we will be having this specific pattern starting from super, right? Okay. So if I simply go ahead and provide a particular expression over here. Okay. If I execute the same, fine. Now you will be having the Mario's pattern as well, right? Okay. So this is how you can simply go ahead and have this particular sort of patterns to be matched out, right? Okay. So for now, guys, let's come on to the particular part where we have the year, right? And we will be defining the range that I want to analyze only 2012 data to be available over here, right? I execute it. If I have a glance over here, so now you can see that these are the games that will be launched in year 2012 only, right? And the number of records is 657, right? I think around 16,000 games, 657 games will be launched in year 2012. Okay. Now guys, after that, we will be going ahead by grouping functionality, right? Now what we have to group? We have to group the games in a specific category, and we have to see that, okay, in which of the category or what will be the count of the games. Fine, into 2012, right? So what we'll do, I will be simply going ahead and looking for group by node, right? So there is a group by node, which is this. What I'll do, I'll simply go ahead, have this particular node, right? Now I will connect, make a link. Okay, fine. Now let me configure this, guys. Its configuration is very easy. What you will do, you have to simply group the count of the games, right? Or let's say you want to know the count of the games along with the specific category. So what are the two different columns that you will be considering? Okay, Arvind Singh, gender for that. Okay, so see, if you have a glance onto your data, guys, so this genre will be the categories. Categories will be stored onto my genre column. Fine. After that, I will be doing the manual aggregation by the name column, right? I'll simply click on apply, click on OK. Fine. If I execute the same, and if I have a glance onto my group by table, right? So guys, here what you are seeing that, okay, onto the action categories, there are around 266 games. Onto the adventure category, you will be having 58 games. Fine. Out of fighting, you will be having 29 games. In miscellaneous categories, you will be having 38. Fine. So what you have done over here, you have simply grouped by the particular things by category, right? So first of all, what has happened? Genre column has been splitted. Okay. So genre column is having shooter. So shooter is one category, role playing is one category, action is one category. Fine. So what are the unique categories? They will be segregated. After that, onto the manual aggregation part, this one, you have selected column. Okay. So if I go ahead, add the publisher over here, have the count, click on OK, execute it. Fine. Have a group table. So the same thing will be there, right? So how many publishers will be coming onto the action category? How many publisher will be coming onto let's say any of the categories? So it's up to you. You can have any sort of columns, right? What it will do, it will simply count the categories, right? That will be repeating. Okay, this is how it will be coming. Okay, so for average, your column will be integer, right? So guys, are you clear with the group by? For now, the first group by, let me name it, that is giving you the count of categories of game. That's cool, right? Now if you go ahead and have that, what is the average sales for different categories, right? Now you have to consider the global sales column, and you have to see that, okay, what is the average sale or mean sales for different categories, right? So what you will do, guys, you will go on to the particular platform, right? This is your one group by. Now I will be simply adding the second group by node over here, right? So let me just align them so that I can manage the space. Okay, so now same data I will be connecting onto this group by, right? Okay, so I will be giving it as average sales. Fine. Now let's say what you have to do, you have to simply build a plot of average sales, right? Or let's say the count of categories of game, right? So what you will do, you will come on to the view part, go on to the JS. Let's say I want to map a build a particular bar plot. So now guys, what we'll do, we'll connect with it. Fine. We'll configure it. For configure, what are the things that I needs to have over here, right? Category column should be chainered, right? If I execute it, if I have a glance over here, and if I built a bar chart, right? So it is coming like this for now. So let's go ahead and build up a line plot for it. Okay, so let's have this sort of category for now. Let me have a glance. Fine. Let me configure it. So onto the particular x-axis, I want the categories. Fine. And onto the particular column for y-axis, what I want only the count, right? So let's apply, execute it. Fine. So guys, why we are not getting it, let me remove it. Fine. And let's have a try for it. So this is my line plot. Simply go ahead, configure it, right? So I want the x-axis should be this column. Fine. Y-axis should be the count of it. I click on OK, fine. And after that, I simply go ahead, execute and open views, fine. See, the specifically line plot has been built over here, right? So this is the count of the categories, fine. And the particular x-axis will be having the genre for it, right? What will be the categories, and these will be the count of the particular games. Okay, now if you want to build a bar plot, this is line plot, let me build a bar plot. What do you think? Can I build bar plot for now? Connect it over here, configure it, right? So I have this particular column category should be this one. Okay, right? So the occurrence has been come on to this particular part, right? So we have to build up and we have to set n number of things, right? Okay. So for the people who are simply going ahead, they can simply configure the color, right? Chart title, subtitles, everything will be gone with this particular tabs, right? Okay, fine. Now one thing we are doing, we will be reading this data, right? So if you have a glance onto your group by table for the average sales, now I want to store it onto my CSV file, right? I want to extract this particular data from my KNIME. So for that, what I'll do, I will be having a CSV writer, right? So this is a CSV writer. I'll simply extract it out, connect these node with this. Okay, let me configure it. So what I have to do, first of all, I have to provide the path. So let's say the path should be desktop. Okay, so let me have the file name as extracted underscore average sales by category. Fine, right? Now what I'll do, okay, these all things will be there. I'll click on OK. I'll click on execute. Fine. So guys, if I find extracted underscore average underscore sales, that is onto my particular system, right? And you will be having this particular data, right? So guys, this is how you can extract out your particular computed data from KNIME. Okay, we will be simply going ahead with the basics of machine learning. Fine, how you will be going ahead and implementing all the machine learning algorithms onto it. Okay, we will be discussing about different nodes that will be available for performing different tasks. Okay, so for an example, let's say if you want to simply split your data set onto the training and the testing bucket, fine. So what are the different nodes you will be considering, how you will be using it, how you will be configuring it, fine. So all the things we will be discussing around machine learning part, right? That will be simply used to implement the algorithms, fine. After that, we will be having the hands-on for, let's say, linear regression. After that, we will be going ahead with decision tree as well, right? So we will be simply going ahead, we will be implementing these two scenarios, fine. And we will be also seeing the different nodes, right? For stats as well, how you will be getting the statistics of your data, right? How you will be going ahead and simply having a view of the accuracy, right? So everything we will be discussing that you simply go ahead and implement onto the different programming language, right? So all the things we will be going to see onto this particular session, right? That will be simply based upon, let's say, upon KNIME with machine learning, fine. So let's simply go ahead and have a particular workflow, right? So guys, just create a new workflow. It's up to you how you will be going ahead, right? So these are the different workflow. Let me just remove it from here. Yeah, okay. Just have the particular workspace, right? Your workspace will be local, and inside this, you will be creating different sort of workflows, and all the workflows will be available over here. If I simply click on it, if I open it, right? So this is the particular workflow that we have created, right? A simply sort of data manipulation, cleansing, and let's say a viewing sort of part. Okay. So likewise, now what you'll do, either you can simply go ahead, click on file, click on new, click on next, right? Now here also it's up to you if you want to store it onto any particular location, so you can browse it, fine. So here you have simply this particular workspace. If you want, you can set the new location as well. Okay, now I will be giving the workflow name, that is webinar underscore demo underscore 2, fine. That will be based upon machine learning. So you can give any name of your choice. It's totally up to you, right? After that, simply click on finish, right? Now guys, the moment I click on finish, so I will be having a new sort of workflow to be onto my screen, right? And that will be stored onto my workspace. Okay. So now the first and the foremost thing.
If you want to make a career in data science, then Intellipaat has IIT Madras Advanced Data Science and AI Certification Program. This course is of very high quality and cost effective, as it is taught by IIT professors and industry experts.
Before going ahead with any of the particular model building, so guys, what you require: file reader, right? Let's say the data. Okay. So guys, now let's simply go ahead and first of all read the data set. So again, I am using file reader, right? So you can simply go ahead and start your particular workflow, right? Okay, so I am using file reader. I'll simply go ahead, click on configure, right? Now after that, what I have to do, I have to simply go ahead and navigate the file from my local system. Fine. So I'll simply click on browse, go on to my particular file, have and look for the folder where I have saved my file. It's K data. And now let's say I will be going ahead and having my particular file, that is data.csv. Fine. So I just have a glance onto the preview. My year is in decimal and salary is in integer. That's cool. So guys, I have simply created a new workflow with the name webinar underscore demo underscore 2. You can have any name of your workflow, right? So you can have multiple sort of workflows, or let's say if you compare it, so you can have multiple R files or multiple IP1B files, right? Like that, you can create multiple workflows. Okay. So after that, I simply click on OK, right? So the particular TPS processing state or the has been turned to yellow, right? Let me execute it. Let me have a glance onto my table. So my data has been successfully uploaded onto KNIME for computations, right? Now guys, after that, I have executed it, which means my node is in active state and ready to be mapped out to establish link with any other of the node. Fine. So now let me first of all analyze my data, right? So for analyzing it, what I will be doing, let me search for statistic node. Yeah, let me put it over here, right? Now what I'll do, I'll simply connect it. Let me configure it. Fine. So now guys, I also want to know the median of the data, right? So let's say I want to include both the columns. Okay. So these are the columns onto my data set. I can easily able to choose that, okay, which are the columns that I include for computations. Okay. So let me also change the name where I will be importing salary data, right? That's cool. Now let's come on to the second node. It's additional, guys. It's always depend upon the particular user, right? How you will be using different sort of nodes. It is not hard and fast rule that every time you wants to use the same sort of workflow for linear regression. It's totally up to the user how you will be configuring and building up the model. Okay. So now let's say generally the particular programmer or the user, what he or she will do, let's say to understand the data in a better way, we will be going ahead with the stat part, right? To know the minimum value, maximum value, standard deviation, if my data is having any of the missing values or not, right? So for that, there is a node known as statistics node. Fine. Go ahead, search for it. So onto the statistics section, there is a particular node known as statistics. Simply select it, drag and drop it onto your workspace. Okay. Now let me make a link between these two nodes. I have created a link, which means now whatever the data that I have simply loaded, I can easily able to provide it to my statistics node. So my statistics node can simply work upon it, function it, and provide me the output, right? Now what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead, click on configure. Just come on to this particular window, configuration of the statistics node. Okay. Now what it is showing, it is showing me the columns in my data. So I am having two columns. Fine. So I want to know the let's say minimum or average, median, fine, everything about both the column. So I will also selecting my years of experience column. So now both the columns are included in computations. Okay. I want all the columns that, okay, all the particular columns data I need to analyze, I need to inspect, so that I have included both the column now, right? Now it's totally depends upon the particular user. Now let's say I don't want to utilize or align my resource. I only want to see salary column. Now guys, let's say I don't want to analyze salary column, so I can exclude it. It's totally up to the user's choice. Whatever the column he or she wants to include, he or she can, right? Now for the particular scenario, I want to inspect both the columns, so I will be including both of them, right? Now there is a particular option basically to have the optimized utilization of resources. The calculation of median is expensive, right? It has simply mentioned. So let's say if you want to know the median of the data, you can check mark. Otherwise, the resource will not compute the median values, right? So now let's say I also want to know the median of my particular column. So I will simply click.
Just a quick info, guys. Test your knowledge on data science by answering this simple question. Dash is one of the key data science skills. A. Machine learning. B. Statistics. C. Data visualization. D. All of the above. Comment down the correct answer below and subscribe to Intellipaat to know the right answer.
And give a check mark to this particular box, right? So that is the best part in KNIME. Let's say if you don't want to use or waste your resources, so you can simply uncheck this particular process, right? So it has simply shown that, okay, all the statistical factors are optimized and can be easily computed, right? But calculation of median values will computationally expensive process. So if you want, so you can, if you want to save your resources, you can, it's up to you, right? So here I want to calculate the median values as well, so I have simply give a check mark. Fine. After that, guys, simply click on OK, right? Now my particular TPS that has been changed to yellow, which means my statistics node is configured but still wants execution, right? So what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead, click on execute and open view, right? See, now for both the columns, I will be having an optimal view in front of my screen, right? So my first column is years of experience. So it is giving me that, okay, this is the minimum value in years of experience. This is an average value of years of experience in your data. This is the median of years of experience of your data. And this is the maximum value that is available in years of experience, right? Standard deviation, skewness of the data, kurtosis, number of missing value. This is the important parameter, guys. Fine. So onto my data, the particular node has detected that we don't have any of the missing values. So this is the process how you can easily able to detect the particular sort of missing values, right? Now what this shows, number of plus infinite and number of minus infinite outliers, guys, right? So it will also give you the glance onto the outliers. Fine. So onto this particular part, now you can easily have a view of your columns, right? That, okay, which is the employee or what is the minimum years of experience man onto my data. So I can easily see that, okay, the person who is having 1.1 years of experience is having the least experience onto my data, right? And if I want to see that, okay, onto my data, what is the an average years of experience of a particular employee, so it is coming as 5.31 years. Fine. So middle of the data, fine. Second quartile, 50% of the data, percentile of the data is 4.7. Fine. So this is the midpoint of the data, 4.7. 50% of the data is below it, 50% of the data is above it, right? Now if anyone wants you to identify that, okay, what is the years of experience, or let's say which employee is having the greatest years of experience, right? So that is 10.5 years. This is the maximum value, right? Same if you go on to the salary column, guys. So the minimum salary will be around 37,731, right? The minimum or the average salary of the employees in your data will be let's say 76,003, right? What is the average salary? 76. The middle salary 50 percentile, or you can simply say the second quartile will be 65,000, right? What is the maximum salary that will be available onto your data is around 1,22,000, right? Standard deviation, the average deviation between your data points, fine. Skewness, all these will be the statistical parameter. Fine. So within a just a single click, guys, you will be having a particular visualization available on in front of you, right? So you don't need to be hassle around in complex codes. Fine. Simply going ahead and debugging the codes, right? So it's a simple way. Go ahead, have a node, configure your data, provide the input of the data, and have a glance, right? So this is how you can inspect it. Fine. So guys, now let's go ahead. If you have the particular other sort of thing, right? So these are the nominal or categorical sort of columns if it is available onto your data. So you can see this is top down, right? So these are the top 20 records in your data. Fine. So it will simply give you top down approach as well. First 20 records, last 20 records. Fine. It's up to you how you can configure the same. So this is how you can simply have a glance over it, right? So for now, I hope statistics will be clear, right? Now let's go on to visualization part. So it's up to the particular user, guys, how you will be going ahead and simply using or making the maximum use of all the nodes available. Now guys, let's say I want to see the different sort of, or I want to visualize these two variables. Okay, so let me come on to the linear regression part. Okay, so onto the linear regression part, guys, I have to build up this particular model and my data. If I open it, okay, so let me open it with the KNIME. Fine. So I'm having two columns, that is years of experience and salary, right? Now what is my main task? I want to predict the salary of an individual by considering years of experience he or she is having, right? Now in this particular part, which is my independent variable? Fine. So let's talk about independent variable first. So whenever you are working with machine learning algorithms, so you need to have specific set of columns as your dependent variable and independent variable, right? So dependent variable will always be one, and how you will be identify the things that you want to predict out of the machine. Fine. I want to predict out the years, or let's say the salary. Fine. So salary will be my dependent variable, or let's say the dependent column. Okay. Now on which parameters my salary will be depending? So it is depending upon or considering the years of experience. Based upon years of experience, I want to drive or predict salary. Fine. So what you needs to be predicted out of your model will always be your dependent variable, right? And whatever will be the things on which you are getting the predictions, fine, that will be your independent variable, right? So I want the salary based upon years of experience. So guys, years of experience will be your independent variable. Fine. So these are my two columns. Based upon my independent variable, I want to determine salary, fine, of the particular individual. So before going on to the model building part, guys, let me visualize. Fine. So let me just go ahead and make the maximum utilization of the nodes I can, right? So here I don't need to worry about writing the code, importing the libraries, or let's say importing the packages, whether you are working with R, right? Whether you are working with Python, fine. If you're working with R, you have to go ahead and have the ggplot too, right? If you are going with Python, you want to have matplotlib, fine. So here I don't want to be onto the hassle of packages. What I'll do, I'll directly go ahead onto my node repository. I'll search for scatter plot. That's all, right? So I'll simply drag and drop my scatter plot. Fine. So I'll simply connect it over here. So I will be just labeling it, fine, inspecting the data. That's cool. So onto the scatter plot, what I'll be doing, I will be simply visualizing my data. Okay, that's cool. Now onto scatter plot, guys, give a right click. Now we have to configure it. Okay, so I'll be configuring it. Now it will be asking me that, okay, on to x-axis what you want. So guys, onto the x-axis I want years of experience, and onto the y-axis I want to have the salary column, right? So I'll simply go ahead. This is all the things. Fine. Let me click on OK, and let me give it a execute and open view, right? Or execute, it's up to you. So my TPS has turned to green, which means my node has been successfully executed, right? Now what you will do, give a right click and guys, come on to the interactive plot. Okay, simply hit it. And now guys, wait for a while, you will be having the computation on your screen, right? So here you will be having a scatter plot, right? So onto your particular y-axis, you will be having salary. Onto the x-axis, you will be having years of experience, right? Now guys, let's say onto your particular plot, you will be having this symbol, right? Simply click on it. And now this is an interactive plot. Okay, if you want to assign any of your x-axis label, you can provide it over here, right? So let's say I'm giving my axis label as employee experience, fine. And onto my y-axis, the moment I just come onto this node, so the label has been changed, employee experience, right? You can notice it over here. If you go ahead onto the y-axis, so let's say I will be changing the particular plot as employee salary, right? If I come on to it, yeah. Now over here, if you want to select any of the row, so you can, right? So now if you want to give the chart title, so I will be giving that scatter plot for experience versus salary, right? So the plot will be there, right? So it's up to you how you will be going ahead and have the different sort of thing, right? So this is how you can change it over here. Okay, simply apply it. These will be fixed, right? If you want to reset, you can also reset. So this is how each and every plot will work upon and how you can easily able to change it, right? Now let me close the plot, guys. This is how I have visualized my data. Okay, now what is the next step whenever you are working with model, right? So the first step has been accomplished. What we have done, we have load the data set. Okay, now after loading the data set, the next step is splitting. Find splitting of data set into the testing and training bucket, right? Now how will we accomplish this particular splitting task onto data, let's say KNIME for now. Okay, so guys, how we'll do with our sample dot split, right? So for that particular thing, we have to write 3 to 4 lines of code, right? Splitting, after that we are subsetting it, fine. And then we will be having the accurate sort of proportions, fine. Now how we'll do onto the particular KNIME. So there is a partitioning node, right? Just search for it, this one, right? Under the manipulations, under rows, you will be having the partition node. Simply have it over here, fine. Now you can directly connect this particular node over here, right? If the node is simply coming onto it, so you can build the workflow like this as well, no issues. It's up to you, whatever the way you want to go, you can adjust it over here. Click on the particular link and you can easily able to give it any of the shape, right? So I will be labeling it as splitting of data, fine. Now this particular node TPS showing me that it is not configured and inactive. Let's make it active, fine. Let me go on or click it on to the particular node, configure it, fine. Now guys, here you will be having the options that will be available, right? Either you can simply go ahead by from top to down, right? Linear sampling you can do, you can do random sampling, fine. And here it will simply give you the percentage of the data that you want to extract out, right? If you want to go ahead with number that, okay, I want to get 100 random records, you can go with absolute. If you want to go ahead and provide the percentages of the data, right? Now let's say for my particular model, the proportion should be 80 is to 20. 80 is to 20 means 80 is going on to my training bucket for training the model, and remaining 20% of the data will be used for predictions, fine, getting the predictions out of it. Okay, so 20% of the data will goes to my training bucket and remaining 20% will goes on to the testing bucket. What I'll do over here, I will increase the particular proportion that, okay, now this is 80, fine. Now after that, let me simply click on okay. I will be randomly selecting 80% of the data, fine. The moment I execute it, let's say configure it. Now let me simply go ahead and execute the same, right? So if I click onto the upper node, so guys, see, it is coming as we have 24 rows and 2 columns, right? If I go on to or hover onto the second node, so it is having 6 rows and 2 columns, right? Which means that onto my data set, if I go ahead and have a glance, so I am having total 30 rows and 2 columns, fine. So first of all, here you can see that there will be 30 rows, 2 columns. Fine. So 100% data is 30 rows. Now, if you compare and calculate manually, that 80% of 30 rows somewhere comes around 24, right? So your first node, this node will be having the training data. If you come over it, so it is giving you that the first partition or first splitting is having 24 rows and 2 columns, right? And what is the 20% of 30 is 6. So your second partition is having 6 rows and 2 columns, which means successfully I have splitted my data into 80:20 ratio. 80 is my training and 20 is testing. Fine. Which means if I go on to my KNIME, so the first node is having 80% of the data and the other one is having 20, right? Now on to the configuration part. If I go over here, right? So this is the particular path. Okay. Now after that, on to the relative part, guys, you have to give the proportions, right? Proportions means percentile. So here I want 80% of the data to be onto the first node and remaining 20% of the data onto the second node. So for the first node, you have to provide the proportions. Okay. So on to the KNIME part, if I use linear sampling, so there is nothing as a random seed. Fine. Now on to the random, let's say if you want to draw your data randomly, right? So you can simply have a particular sort of values to be available over here, right? So what it will do, it will simply fix out the sampling of the data. Fine. So these are the basic sampling techniques, guys. So there is one conditional sampling. Fine. Onto this particular part, we will be having, so it's stratified sampling, which will be basically onto the different sort of thing. Fine. Stratified sampling, right? Now I'll discuss the random sampling in detail. Fine. So guys, how random sampling will work, right? It will always require a particular value to generate a random sequence, right? So random sequence, it will simply go ahead and basically what it will do every time whenever you are doing random sampling, guys. Fine. So on to the random sampling part, what it will do, let's say the computational resource, it will simply use your current system time, right? So there is a by default value, every time it will be changed. Fine. So based upon that, the particular thing will randomly generate some numbers, right? Generate the particular sequence of the number, right, to start with a particular value. Okay. So always what it will do, it will be simply take the current system time. Fine. And random sampling will always be there, right? So whenever you are normally going ahead with random sampling, fine, so every time whenever you are extracting or doing the random sampling means from your particular data you will be randomly picking up the value. Fine. Let's say for this time you have included 4 over here, right? Next time if I have again executed my node, so there will be for sure that onto the first record, onto the 80% of the data, this particular 4 is not available, right? Why? Because the system time has been changed and the sequence or the numbers that has been randomly generated, that will be different. Fine. So for every time whenever you are going ahead extracting or performing random sampling, fine, so it will be considering this current system time, and based upon that it will generate the sequences. Fine. And it will be picking up the records, right? Randomly it will generate some of the particular sequence or the random numbers, and it will be picking up the records out of your particular data, right? 30 rows will be there, so there will be the chances that okay, fourth row will be included in my training bucket. After that 10, row number 10 will be included. Fine. After that 15 will be included. So it will be automatically dependent upon the current system time. So for now I will be having different current system time value for my resources. So it will be randomly and it will be starting from different sort of, let's say, range. Fine. And have the different sort of generation of random number, right? Now what is seed? Seed or random seed is a particular procedure where you will be giving a particular value, right? It's up to you. You can have any value of your choice, and this value will be used instead of current system time, right? So which means that instead of going ahead multiple execution, my data or random sampling will remain same. Fine. Which means if I have used random seed and if I have provided any value, it's up to you, right? So this value will be fixed up, and by considering these values, the random sort of numbers will be generated, and these number will be now used to extract out the data. Fine. So now from this particular point, I am not using current system time. Fine. So automatically it will be going ahead and considering the same number again and again. Fine. So for our, let's say after 5 minutes, my system time will be changed, right? So that's why I am having let's say different sort of random numbers to be included or random records. But once I have fixed the seed value, right? So every time this is the seed. So exactly, let's say for now I am having 10 rows, right? So this is my row 1, row 2, row 3, row 4, let's say row 5. Fine. Now what is my task, guys? I have to randomly pick out 3 rows out of 5 rows. Fine. So let's say according to my current system time, it has generated certain sequence of number. So the particular output after operations will be, it has included R4, right? R2, R4, right? And let's say R5. So these are randomly picked up by the system based upon my current time, right? Now, if I again execute, right, if I again perform random sampling onto the same data, so there will be the possibility, right? This is my second execution of the node, or let's say second time I am performing random sampling. Just understand in this way. Okay. Now there will be the chances that this time again randomly the data will be changed. That okay, I want to include 3 rows. So this time R1 will be included, R2 will be there. Fine. And let's say R5 will be there, right? So if I again goes ahead and third time I will execute, so the output will be different. Fine. The output will be randomly picked, and again this will be changing depending upon the current system time. Fine. But if I talk about now, I am performing a random sampling using seed. Fine. So what I'll do, instead of my current system time, fine, the real sort of values, I will be using a seed value. Okay. So for that, now let's say I have simply given the seed values. It's up to you. This is your seed value. Fine. You have provided it. Either you can also give 1. It's up to you. 10. It's totally up to you. You have to assign an integer. Fine. Now what it has done, now again I am performing random sampling. So it has considered this seed value, and now from this particular thing randomly it has picked out some record. Let's say R1, R3, and R4, or let's say R5, right? Now if I am having the seed value over here, right, if I again execute the same, so this time also, guys, my data will remain same. Fine. And it will not changed, right? So it again I am having R1, R3, and R5. Fine. So this is how the random sampling and the seed will be working side by side in an end. Fine. So that is the part. Now these are the different sort of sampling, right? Linear sampling means that okay, from above only it will be taking out 80% of the data, right? Now for stratified sampling, guys, it is a conditional sampling where it will be simply putting up, and it will be basically used for categorical column, right? Okay. So stratified sampling, it will not work over here. Why? Because we will be having numeric data. So it is not coming over here. What stratified sampling will do, guys? Basically, let's say I'm having 2 columns. Okay. So for stratified sampling, let's say you will be having the data which is having the people's capital income, fine, or annual income, right? And the other column is, guys, let's say the next column will be, let me give you, yeah, the nation. Fine. That okay, the individual is belonging to which nation. Okay. So here I will be having, let's say, a different sort of nations, right? Let's say we will be having India, we will be having US. Fine. You will be having Canada, right? These are the 3 nations, and along with that I will be having different people's annual income, right? So for that, guys, now what stratified sampling will do, I will be defining the pools. That okay, for India I want to include 40% of the people, right? So from my entire data set, I will include 40% onto my particular sampling, right? let's say for US, I want to include 20% of the people, right? Or let's say 20% of the people annual income, right? And after that, let's say for Canada, I want to include remaining 40% of the data, right? So this is known as stratified sampling, where you will be defining the pools, right? So from your particular data, let's say you want to take the sample of 100 records, fine, but your real data, guys, is of 1000 records, fine. So what it will do, it will simply goes ahead with it, fine, and based upon your sample size, now I want to have this sample of 100 records only. So based upon the sample size, it makes sure that from India, the 40% of the records should be included for India, right? In 100 records, 40% of the records should be of India, 20% of the records should be US, 40% should be of Canada, fine. So this is known as stratified sampling, where you will be defining that, okay, for a specific pool or the classification, I should have this percentage of the data. Okay, that's totally cool, guys. Let's complete this particular part. Let's draw the 80% of the data, fine. Let me execute it. Okay, now we have successfully splitted our data. Let me come upon over here. Yeah, these are the steps, fine. Now after loading the data set, what you have to do, you have to build a model and train it, fine. So for that, what we have, guys, with us, we will be having the linear regression learner, fine. After that, what we'll do, we'll go to KNIME, we'll just search for linear regression, fine. So I am having linear regression learner. What I'll do, I'll go ahead, pick up it over here and drop it, fine. So this is the learner, right? This node will simply help me to make the particular model to learn about the data, simply identify it, fine. Now what do you think, which node I should connect to this linear regression learner? First partition, right? So what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead and put it over here. Okay, now let me configure it, guys, fine. So the first thing what it asks us about the target. So which column is target, guys? Salary, fine. So let me clear that dependent variable is also known as target, fine. So what we'll do over here, simply give it a right click, configure, and now it will ask us that which column is target. So my target column is year, fine. So target column will be the dependent column or the dependent variable, fine. And on to this particular part, guys, here I am having two columns, so I can perform the simple linear regression. And let's say if I want to perform multiple linear regression, so I can include more column as well. Okay, so it's up to you. With the same sort of node, you can perform simple linear regression or multiple linear regression, fine, based upon your data. Okay, so I am having the X variable, that is my independent years of experience, and based upon years of experience, I have my target variable or dependent variable salary, fine. What I need to predict out of my model, that will be target. Okay, after that, what I'll do, I'll click on OK, fine. After clicking on OK, let me execute it. Okay, so successfully I have make my model learn around my data, fine. Now what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead. If you want to see the coefficient and stats part of linear regression, you can have coefficient, fine. For this column, t value, that is available over here, standard error, right? So all will be available onto this particular part. Okay, that is coefficient and stats. Now if you want to see the linear regression result, that how our model has learned and what are the inferences, so this is the inferences, and it is also giving you the R2 score for that particular part, right? So the model accuracy is somewhere around 97%, right? So the coefficient is this, fine. Standard error onto years of experience is this, fine. T value is this. Okay, so everything, all the particular coefficients of linear regression will be available in a single click. You don't need to be worried about complex code. You don't need to be worried about anything, fine. Now guys, if you want to see the scatter plot, so this is the linear relationship between the data, fine. So these are the different sort of nodes that will be available here. You can simply choose the background color as well. It's up to you, fine. So these are the different things that can be easily done with different sort of extensions. Okay, to have a better view for this. Okay, yeah. So this is how you can have a linear regression line that is upcoming over here, fine. So this is how your model has been learned well. Fine. Now guys, once you have done with the particular learning of the model, so what will be the next process or the step? I want predictions, correct? So for predictions, you will be having a regression predictor over here. Fine. So what you'll do, you'll go ahead, put it over here. It will be first of all accepting the learning. So I have transferred and make a link between learning. This is my learning node. Fine. And now guys, one thing more, what I needs to connect, which data I need to provide to a regression predictor, partition 2, right? Okay, let me provide it over here, right? Fine, that's cool. Now after that, simply configure it. So it will be simply giving you the custom prediction column. That is, it will give you the predictions for salary. Click on OK, execute it. Now if you have a glance over it, so for the 6 records, fine, so actual salary is this one, fine, and the prediction is this one. So you can simply have a glance it over here, guys. These are the real values and these are the predicted values. Okay, as you already see onto the particular learner part, fine, that the R squared error is 97 percentile, right? Or let's say the score, fine, which means my model is 97% efficient, or efficiently it will be predicting the values. Fine. So this is how you can have that. Okay, in your test result, if you know, or if you see that in your testing bucket you will be having only 6 rows. Fine. Okay, then for regression predictor, that's good. Let me configure it. See, you will be having only a single thing, that okay, which column you want to predict. So based upon the previous learning, it will simply predict the salary, and the column name is prediction salary. It's up to you. You can also give any name of your choice, right? That is only the configuration of a regression predictor, because everything has been automatically done by linear regression learning. Work is, it will accept the test part and the learning, simply interpret it and give you the predictions. That is the working of regression predictor. Okay, so nothing that if you also go ahead and click on OK, then also you are getting the predictions. If you want to change the name of your predicted column, right? So let's say these are the, I'm giving that, okay, these are the predicted values. Fine, I have given this name. Click on OK, execute it. Now if I go on to the predicted data, so my column name has been changed, right? And if you want to sort them, so here also you can sort. I want to sort them by ascending order, I can. If you want to sort them by descending order, you can, by simply clicking on it, right? This is the how this GUI driven interface will be providing you the privileges. Fine. See, this will simply be the backend working, how the thing is working, right? So for now there is nothing like this. If you go on to the flow variable over here, right, configuration, so these are the particular thing that has been mapped onto the setting, right? If you want to give any of the name, so you can, right? So guys, I will be creating one more workspace for that, right? So let me name it as webinar demo 3, and let me now go ahead with decision tree for now. Okay, so let me finish it off. Yeah, so this is my particular thing here where we have implemented your particular linear regression, right? So let me also save it, and I will be sharing this particular workflow so you can simply able to import it and execute each and every node. Fine. Yeah, so it has been automatically saved, and if I go ahead and search it for this particular file, yeah, so I have this file onto my system, right? Now let's go ahead and have a particular new sort of algorithm, fine, where we will be building up confusion metrics. We will be calculating accuracy, right? That is for decision tree. Fine. Now, so the first and the foremost thing, again, we have to read the data, right? So the procedure will remain the same. The first thing will be reading the data. Fine. So we will be reading your census income. Then we will be simply segregating and giving a particular color to the parameter, right? Or you can simply go ahead for now splitting, right? Splitting will be there. After splitting, we will be going ahead with the training part. After training, we will be going ahead testing it and having the predictions out of the model. And after that, we will be simply calculating the accuracy score. You can simply say that confusion metrics, what are the misclassified and classified values, right? So these are all the steps that will be going to have onto our KNIME for now. Okay. So the first and the foremost thing is, guys, we have to go ahead and read the data set. So see, you can go to specific sort of data reader, right? If I want to go ahead with CSV, if I want to go ahead with Excel, right? So let's say if you want to have a generic sort of node available, right, which will automatically detect that, okay, which is the type of the file that you want to read. So you can simply go ahead and go with file reader, right? So whatever the file you want, you can easily able to read it with file reader. Okay, let's again configure it. So now I have to go ahead with the file that is census income, right? So I think it will be available onto my K data. Yeah, census income CSV. Fine. So if I have a glance over here, guys, so this is a comma separated file again, right? So I am having the preview over here, age column, work class, flying weight, education, fine, marital status, occupation, relationships, fine, all the columns that you are familiar with. After that, what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead, click on OK, execute it, and have a glance onto my data. Fine. So now all the data types will be available over here, right? So it's the age will be an integer, work class string, flying weight is integer, education is string, education number will be in integer, right? So all the data will be available onto it. Fine. Now guys, after having the glance onto the data, what I'll do, I will be going to have the partitioning for now, right? I want to, let's say, go ahead and split the data set. Fine. So I will be having my particular rows over here. What I'll do, again, I'll simply connect it to partitioning. Fine. Configure it. So let's say now let's have the proportion as 72:30, right? 70 should be my training and the remaining 30 should be my testing bucket for my particular model, right? Again, I will be doing, see, here you will be having the stratified sampling, right? Based upon which column you want to go ahead with the particular, let's say, the sampling part, right? So we are simply going ahead with random selections, random sampling. Fine. I'll simply click on it, click on OK. Let me execute it. Fine. So if I simply have a glance onto my first partition, so guys, see, now I am having around 22,792 records, 15 columns, and all records has been randomly picked up. Okay. If I go on to the second partition, so I am having around 9,769. Fine. So this is my testing bucket, guys. Okay. So the first one is my training. This one is my training bucket having 22,000 records. It is having around 9,000 records. Fine. So if you check your particular data, so it is having around 32,561 records. Okay. So that is my particular data for now. Okay. Now guys, what is the next process? Fine. Of model building. Now what you want? Learner? Yeah, you can. And let me introduce one more thing. Fine. So that whenever you are going ahead with visualization, so it will be a good part, right? That is your color manager. So if I append it in between these two nodes, fine. Okay. So what it will do, let me configure it, guys. It will simply pick up any of the particular column, right? And it will simply give different colors to the categories. Fine. So onto the income column, I am having two things. The first one is your particular, let's say, the income which is greater than $50,000 and one is smaller or equals to $50,000. Okay. So you can simply set the colors according to you. It's up to you. So we will be giving the color to different sort of categories. Fine. So at the time of having a glance onto the decision tree, I can easily able to recognize by the colors. It's a part of formatting. It's up to you. Fine. So if you execute it, if you have a glance onto the configuration part, everything will be same. Again, execute it. So now guys, here you can see that there is a color partition that has been coming over here. The green one is the particular records which is having the yearly income less than or equals to $50,000, and the red ones are the records which is having their particular yearly income, annual income more than $50,000. Fine. So this is how you can simply have or you can assign a color to different categories. You can also choose education column. You can also choose marital status, occupations. It's up to you. Fine. To give the color, let's say whenever you are visualizing decision tree, anything, you can have a particular part, right? So there is a additional nodes as well that is known as color manager. It's up to you. You can also provide it the colors, right? Okay. So now here what you will be having the partitioning, right? So the first partition is training data and the second partition is testing data. Okay. Now on top of which we are building the model, we have to have the decision tree learner first, right? So I'm having and giving my decision tree. Let me align the nodes. Fine. Yeah. So what I'll do guys over here, I'll simply go ahead and give my training data to my decision tree learner. Okay, fine. So let me configure it. So here again, what is the column that you want to simply classify, right? Or see, your particular problem statement is that, right? Why I haven't mentioned. So what you have to do, you have to classify whether the person is having income more than $50,000, right? Or less than or equals to $50,000. Fine. So there are the two categories, guys. Fine. Okay. So your problem statement will be you have to classify or predict out of your machine that based upon the data or all the columns that are available, your particular person is having the annual income more than $50,000 or less than $50,000, right? So if you go on to the KNIME part for now, so you have easily analyzed that, okay, your particular table will be having or the income column will be having two sort of categories. Either the salary is more than $50,000 or less than $50,000. These are the two categories, right? Fine. Now what you have to do based upon all the parameters, you have to predict the income column, right? Whether what it will be the salary or what will be the particular category of a person, right? So this is the problem statement. Okay. Now what I want from my particular model, I'll simply configure it. And what is the class column? On which sort of segmentation or classification I want it for income column, right? So yeah, after that it is Gini index and Gini ratio, right? We prefer the gain ratio, we prefer the Gini index, right? We don't want any of the pruning process. Everything will be there. Okay, nothing you have to change. You have to simply go ahead and click on OK, right? Now let me execute it and open the view. The moment I simply go ahead, execute it, so I will be having a robust sort of visualization for my decision tree, right? If you click on plus, so you will be going ahead on each and every nodes. Fine. If you click on minus, right? So this is the visualization part of your particular decision tree, guys. Okay. So what will be the percentage that for a particular person based upon the relationship, what is the capital gain, right? So if I come, this is my first node, root node. After that, these are the particular nodes for the root node. Fine. So not in family, what will be the particular range of the person lying more than $50,000 or less than $50,000, right? Based upon these, if I go on keeping on plus, so it will take me down, right, on each and every possible nodes. See, so this is my decision tree. You can see the entire onto the top left, right? So for any of the segmentation part, I can easily go ahead and find all the possible nodes. Fine. So this has provided me everything for the decision tree for plotting of it, every possible, let's say, fine, the ways. Okay. Until the root node I can. If I still want to go down, I can. It's up to me. Fine. Okay. I can segment C. Now this is my root node onto the top right, guys, where my cursor is over here, right? Root node, I come down, not in a family. I have checked out for capital gain. So these are the two columns. Fine. Instead education column, again, I go ahead with further subcategories. Fine. Onto the bachelor part, I have segmented it onto the age capital loss. Fine. Hours per week. So this is how I am going down onto it. Fine. So you can have and see each and every node of a decision tree, guys, with this sort of robust feature in KNIME, right? Otherwise, onto any of the programming language, if you want to go ahead and want to see the number of nodes, so again you have to execute and specify that thing. But over here, if I simply click on it, I can simply compact it down. Fine. Okay, that's cool. So this is my root node. After that, these are my things, and I can easily able to segregate each and every rows. Fine. See, clicking on plus. Okay. So guys, after that, we have to go ahead with predictors. Fine. Once I have made my model learn, now I want to predict it. So I will be going ahead, giving the predicted over here, right? Let me simply connect the particular learning path. Fine. So this has simply shifted the learning part from decision tree learner to predictor, so that predictor can use the learning and simply help us to predict the information onto the test data, right? So again, the process is very simple. Go ahead, connect this particular node, that is your test data, to your predictor. Fine. After that, configure it. Now, as you see that you are working with maximum number of rows. Fine. So what you will do, you can increase the rows. Fine. Onto your test data, I think there is 9,000 rows only, so it will work fine, right? But if your let's say test data is having around 15,000, 1 million rows, right, or 100,000, no issues within it, what you will do, you can simply increase the number of rows that needs to be included. Fine. For now it's okay. I'll simply click on okay, execute it. Fine. And now if I go ahead and have a view onto my decision tree, so this is the learning or the predictions that I got out of it. Okay, fine. So this is my test data, and onto the test data, these are the actual values or real values. Fine. And this prediction column, fine, this column is predictive income values out of my model, how my model has been simply given or classified the values. Fine. Now the better way to summarize is to have my confusion matrix, guys, right? So what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead, look out for the scorer. Scorer is a particular node which will simply help me to get the summarized result about the performance of the model. I'll simply give this particular part over here. Fine. After that, I'll configure my scorer. Okay. So let me configure it. I'll click on configure, just all click on configuration now. Fine. So what it will give you, it will give you that, okay, first column is income. Fine. Which is the actual and the predicted, how you give it on to right table function, what are the real predictions, let's say real values, and what are the predictions that you got out of the model. Fine. Everything will be there. So the first column which needs to be compared is income, and the other column with which it was compared for classification is prediction income, right? After that, what I'll do, I'll simply click on OK. I'll execute it. Now if I go ahead onto the confusion matrix, guys, so this is the confusion matrix that will be available over here, right? So you can analyze that the diagonal is the correctly classified values. Fine. If I want to know the accuracy, so I'll go ahead, click on accuracy statistics. Fine. Or what I'll do, I'll simply go ahead, have a view of confusion matrix. So guys, here you can simply identify the accuracy, the error percentage, correctly classified values, all the summarization will be there. Fine. So this is your confusion matrix. Fine. And this is your particular overall summarization, correctly classified, wrong classified. Accuracy score is 82.034%. Error will be around 17.966%. Fine. So this is how you can easily able to have the accuracy as well as the confusion matrix. Fine. So guys, on to this data set, let me have one statistics part as well, right? So if I want to remove any of the missing values, so I will be having this particular node available, that is missing value. Fine. If you go on to the configuration part, okay, you have to give the data over here and you want to configure it. Fine.
If you want to make a career in data science, then Intellipaat has IIT Madras Advanced Data Science and AI Certification Program. This course is of very high quality and cost effective, as it is taught by IIT professors and industry experts.